Good afternoon. Wednesday. After being out a couple days this week, I've really been struggling health-wise from being sick last week. But came back and it was a struggle. It was a struggle from the time I got up this morning, and it's just now, it's 5 o'clock, and it's just been one of those days. And so, I wanted to look at a CPB that I kind of feel like I can relate to Steve right now. I love this book. It's called Steve the Dung Beetle on a Roll. And, sometimes it's easy to get into a funk and think that your work, that you're just dealing with a lot of, SHIT, right? That you're in it. Sometimes we phrase that, I'm on the struggle bus. And that is especially how I've felt a lot this year, but some days are better and some days are harder. And so this is a day coming back, and it's been a doozy. So anyway, I wanted to talk about this, and I'm kind of relating it. I can also talk about how I'll tie it in, but I wanted to share the book first of all. This is written by Susan R. Stoltz, and then the pictures illustrator is Melissa Bailey. And it's Steve the Dung Beetle on a Roll, which I just love the cover. This is one of the best covers. Talk about perspective, right? This was actually published in 2022, so it's only been out a few years. I wanted to show the end pages because I think those are just brilliant, and I've talked about that before. Look at this, all the balls of poo, and then we've got one right here that's in color, and then if you look at the end page, the same thing, except the ball of poo is over here that's in color, but all of those are fantastic. And the cover, the hard, it's got a sleeve on it, but it's also got the hard cover. So this is, I'll turn this back around so I can see. It's got a great little 2 dedications as well. The writer wrote, "For my great nephew Jackson Ray, you are loved." And then the illustrator wrote, "For Mom, your determination and spunk kept us rolling," which I love the play on that with the words, the idea of rolling. So what it is, it's a great kind of combination of, encouragement. There's a narrative going on for sure, but it's also very informational. And so I just love that. So we've got the very first, I love the perspective. I think the illustrator and the graphics in this book are just amazing. So he starts off, I love how the spread takes up, the illustration takes up the whole page, or the whole spread. And says, "Hey, this is my poo. Go find your own. It's time to roll this poo home." And so I just, it's like they're fighting over poo, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, we often fight over it. Then so Steve gets his ball that he's got to roll home, and he comes across, next he comes across the elephant, and each animal that he encounters in this journey to get his poo home, it does a fantastic drawing. It's got the name, if you can look down here and you can see African elephant. So the elephant says, "Hey Steve, why are you rolling that ball of poo?" And Steve replies, "Because it's my job to help clean up the environment. That's what dung beetles do. Without us, there would be poo all over the place." Oh, I didn't know that. So I love that he knows his job, he knows his purpose. He encounters next the Maasai. I don't know if I'm doing this well enough here. Maybe I need to be doing it this way. He encounters the Maasai giraffe, Look at that. It comes right down the middle of the spread, the head. Again, this illustrator is brilliant. I think this one should have been nominated and won a Caldecott. So the Maasai giraffe says, hey, Steve, why are you rolling that ball of poo? I'm going to recycle this poo and use it for something else, but first I have to get it home. And then, of course, the giraffe says, oh, reduce, reuse, recycle. And then we've got the Grevy's zebra is the next. Look how the legs come right down. So I love that you don't have to have the whole animal, but you can use certain parts and play with perspective, because, of course, this is looking at it, kind of looking down from or looking up rather, from Steve's point of view, this huge thing in proportion. Hey Steve, why are you rolling that ball of poo? Because when I roll it underground, it makes a bed for the baby dung beetles. And then the zebra's like, yuck. And then we've got ostriches, and they're asking the same question. So the repetition of the question, why are you rolling that ball of poo? Why are you doing this? And he's like, it's got to get it home quickly. I'm in a hurry and can't stop to explain. And then he comes across the warthog, who asked him, why are you rolling that ball of poo? When I roll it underground, it helps to control the amount of flies and other insects that bite and annoy you. That makes me happy, is what the warthog says. And then the lions, why do you roll that ball of poo upside down and backwards? And he says, because my back legs are much stronger than my front legs. Uh-oh, okay. And then this is a good one right here, the crocodile Nile, right? He goes by and, hey Steve, why are you rolling that ball of poo? When I clean up the poo, it doesn't run into the water when it rains. That helps keep the river clean. Wow, thanks. And then we've got Mandrill, who says, hey Steve, how do you find your way home when things are in your way? And he says, I can navigate by where the sun is in the sky, so I am never lost. That's amazing. And then we've got a Dick, and he says, hot, 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 of course. And so he gets up on top, Steve, the dung beetle does, and he says, hey Steve, why are you standing on that ball of poo? He says, the ground is very warm when I work so hard rolling this poo home. My feet get burning hot. When I stand on it, it cools them down. Good idea. So he's resourceful. This is a good one, the laughing hyena, or spotted hyena. Hey Steve, your poo is out of control. As you can see, it's rolling down the hill. I know, I'm trying to get it underground. Whoops, to fertilize the dirt. Yikes, and help plants and trees. Whoa, grow. And then we've got, I did not know this creature, a pangolin. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a, I don't know, a plated, what is it? The anteater, armadillo or something. It looks kind of in that family. But hey Steve, why are you rolling that ball of poo? And he says, it's my job to help plant trees and flowers. There are seeds in this poo. When I roll it underground, these seeds begin to grow. That's a big job. Hey Steve, and this is the African crested porcupine. Hey Steve, why are you standing on that ball of poo and looking at the stars? The position of the moon and the stars help me find my way home. That's fascinating, he says. And then we get all the way home. I love this spread here. The ball of poo is in the middle. It says, hey Steve, this poo is so delicious. It sure is juicy. It's the best dung ball I've ever rolled home. What would we all do without you, Steve? And then what's really cool is at the end, there's more facts about dung beetles, some history and some characteristics of them. And then this is really fun. We've got more of Steve's friends, like more about the pangolin, which is apparently one of the most critically endangered species you've never heard of. They are the only mammals covered in scales. They're similar to birds. They eat small pebbles to aid in food digestion. And you can see Steve pushing a pebble towards the pangolin in the illustration, and so on. So more about his animals. And then this is fun. Dung beetle jokes. Like, for example, what is a dung beetle's favorite snack? A poopsicle, okay? What is a dung beetle's favorite number? Number 2. What does the dung beetle put on a hot dog? Mustard, right? What does a dung beetle eat for breakfast? A poop tart. Or what does a dung beetle use for his email? A computer. So it's a fantastic book. And what I like about this book, several things, is this has been a day that I felt like I was just rolling in poo, and it's easy to get bogged down in it, literally, figuratively, but and feel like, you know, what is my purpose, and what am I doing, and, you know, who wants to work with Pooh? But I love that Steve keeps such a positive attitude throughout, and he does serve many purposes, and he finds fulfillment. And it was interesting, we were talking today about Victor and Frankenstein, and this desire to find fulfillment, to follow passion, that might be in conflict sometimes with reason. You know, his professor tried to warn him. I think even at some point that he ignored, you know, like he ignored his father's advice, and he went ahead and pursued and created. But even when he rejected the creature, and we talked about at what point could you have said to him, and they identified several points, but at what point did he intentionally, not knowing what would happen, at what point did he know what would happen, and he made poor choices? And they talked about Justine, him not telling the truth and giving the evidence that would have made him look guilty by default. So that was a very intentional choice then, because he knew what the consequences of him not presenting evidence and not trying to get Justine out, cleared, I guess, her name cleared. So it was interesting to talk about this idea of again, reason and passion, desire. And we talked some about, you know, jobs and what you're pursuing afterwards. And sometimes we have these desires in our hearts, we have these ideas, and they're not always seen by those that love us and advise us as, well, this is not practical, or this is not logistically, it doesn't make sense. You've got to do something that you can pay your bills. And but yet we talked about what happens if you end up in a job that you don't enjoy, and you don't find fulfillment, and you need both. You need to think about both of that. So this reminds me that even jobs that might not seem fulfilling, it's about attitude and perspective. And I think I'll share this with my first bell in particular, because that's where we had some real meaningful discussion as a way of kind of addressing that issue. It doesn't connect specifically in a way with Frankenstein, but I think I'll use it to kind of reinforce and review some of the discussion points that we made yesterday. And what I also love it as a different way of like taking something that's really gross by some, but it's about perspective, and that we can find, if we feel called to something, we can find fulfillment in anything. It doesn't have to be, you know, a high paying job necessarily, or the highest of high, to be fulfilling. And so I think that's important. I think it's about attitude and finding the positive in it and seeing that you have a purpose. So anyway, thought I would share that, because I'm trying to remind myself, okay, Valerie, get on top of the poo ball and let's get on a roll. Get past, you know, the idea that you feel like you're in a just, you know, poo, and let's see that there's purpose behind everything. So anyway, it's Wednesday, and it is the 2nd of April. Been some nice weather the past couple days. I hope it continues, and I hope you will be blessed. Bye-bye.